Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Derek Sockleben. I am here joined by Steve Petrato.
What's up, guys?
And we are going to talk to you about Blade's newest release that we launched yesterday. It's the Scimitar 110. So this is a micro-sized FPV quad. So what we're going to do a little, informal live Q&A. So if you have any questions, Steve's here is monitoring YouTube and Facebook. So if you have any questions on this product, go ahead and shoot them in the comments, and we're going to do our best to answer everything today. So if you have any questions, go ahead and go. I'm going to start talking about the product. So the Scimitar 110 FPV is really kind of the next culmination and the newest tech in a micro-sized brushless platform, a performance-oriented brushless platform.
Definitely.
So this thing is really, really fast. So we've made a lot of key improvements kind of over our previous brushless micro, the Torrent. And we've taken a lot of feedback from you guys, the consumers, and the pilots that bought into the Torrent, and we wanted to make those improvements on the Scimitar. So we did that, and I'm happy to say that I'm very, very pleased with the product, and I know a lot of people will be too. So a lot of new things that I know everybody appreciates. So kind of first and foremost, in a basic way, but it makes a big difference, is the propeller size. So we went up to a 2.5-inch prop on this. Yeah. And eliminated kind of the propeller guards, which some liked, some didn't. But
the propeller guards are one of those things that, it's helpful in a crash, but as you become a better pilot and you don't really need them, it's more of a hindrance,
Right.
And overall, the performance, even if you do crash something like this without a prop guard, the chances of breaking a prop with this size and this material nowadays, it's very limited. It's very minor damage that you're going to get, and the performance gain with not having those. Yeah, you can't bump it into a wall, but the performance game is huge. So I think it's the right call to do that with this type of model.
And so with the bigger propellers, we also went to a bigger motor. So this is a 1106 motor, whereas the previous version was 1104. So we increased the size of the motor, and the KV is a 6,000 kV motor. So it's got a lot of power on this platform. So another big improvement that we made is we went to a new ESC. So this ESC is actually running D-Shot 600. So for people that are familiar with that, it's kind of a different ESC firmware that is really smooth on the throttle response and offers a lot of nice flying characteristics with that firmware. The flight controller, we stuck with an F3, but it's a Betaflight OSD flight controller. So we have plugs on the flight controller that actually just run the camera straight in. You get the Betaflight OSD, telemetry, the voltage, flight time, call sign, all that customizable kind of
all
data.
On your screen, all when you're flying. So if you guys don't know the term OSD, if you're just tuning in, you're not into FPV, but all that information is on the screen. So as you're in the goggles or looking at a monitor, you've got all that data on there. You don't have to look at it. It's not obtrusive to what you're flying. No. But it's sure as heck. I mean, honestly, out of anything, having that battery voltage on screen and knowing, okay, I'm on a 3S battery, a 2S battery. I know exactly my voltage. I know when I need to land, or I know when I'm getting close to landing. Just it's super nice. And also, really, the video, having which channel you're on.
Yeah, the frequency. Yep.
Maybe frequency is nice when you're with a buddy and he's like, hey, I'm on race 1 or I'm on Fat Shark 3 or whatever. You know that you're also not on that, or you know that you're close or not. So super nice feature. Definitely a feedback point that people have wanted, and something that we're able to easily integrate nowadays with all the flight controller technology out there.
Yeah, another big thing about having your channel and your frequency on the on-screen is you can be really close to a channel and still see it in your goggles and think you're good to go. You're like, yeah, I'm on the right channel. But when you see what it is on the screen and you're like, oh, I'm a channel off or whatever, and tune into the correct channel.
A different band, but happens to be close. But
yeah, exactly.
No, I get what you're saying, exactly. For sure. Let's talk about overall, so battery, along with the size of battery that we're putting on this, and then also the flight time that we're getting with it.
So there's really kind of two battery options that you can run on the Scimitar 110. It's the 3S 450 with a JST and a 2S 800. They're really the two kind of batteries that we recommend on here. So if you want to just kind of cruise around the backyard, you're not really concerned about the high performance. This is a small battery. That's not the correct one.
Just for the lights, but I'll plug it in so you guys can see.
If you're not too concerned about having that high performance, the screaming fast type of flying, a 2S is going to offer a little bit longer flight time. You're going to get closer to 4 to 5 minutes on something like that.
That's really reasonable.
It is. It's pretty long for a performance oriented quad. Where 2 to 3 minutes is usually pretty typical. So we were running in the video we were running 2S 800s, and they're more than capable on this motor and prop setup. But if you really kind of want that all-out performance, the 3S is the way to go. So 3S 450, you're getting about I'd say 3 to 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes on average.
That's great.
So yeah, it's more.
I mean,
than
if you think
adequate.
whether you're actually into racing, weekend racing with multi-GP, races are 2 minutes, so that's more than enough time, and you've got overhead. If you're out in the backyard freestyling, cooking a burger on the grill, you got 4 minutes between flips on the burger, man. Just go fly a pack. So I think that's a great flight time. It's not too short. It's not too long.
Yep.
I mean, obviously longer is better, but with weight limitations, we can't we can't expect the world. But when it comes to that 3S, you said it's got a ton of power. I've seen it. It's very similar or 5-inch-esque. When you talk about quads and the sizes, it's very powerful, but it's a little smaller. What would you say is like top speed as a guess? I mean, some of the people are asking, but
oh gosh,
I know it's hard to gauge because these things are so tiny.
I'd venture to say probably, I don't know, 40 to 50 miles an hour.
Which that is screaming, guys. I mean, that is super fast.
Yeah, it's extremely fast. So that's actually something that's good to note is, we went to a bigger motor, but we dropped the KV a little bit. I believe the 1104 we had, with the 2-inch props, we had 7600
right,
KV. We went to a 6000, which increasing the prop size, increasing the stator size, and then lowering the KV actually added a lot of efficiency without sacrificing the power. So you still have that power, but it's more efficient, and you're not having that wasted energy that you're not really gaining a whole lot out of.
So moving on inside, inboard, we talked about the speed controls being D-shot. The flight controller, this is I know we don't have one unopened or opened up. We don't have the hood off, but the flight controller is damped, right? So it's got the little O-rings or whatever you want to call them, the gummies on all 4 posts. So that's going to help you, obviously, with smaller quads. Typically, you have higher frequencies. You get a little bit higher frequency vibration. It's hard to see vibrations too at that RPM on that motor. There goes the beacon. So we set up beacon too. That's good. So if you lose it in the field, it will beep after a certain time. I think that was probably like a 5-minute beacon there. But anyway, back to the flight controller. What's the chip on here, and what do we?
It's an F3
chip. It's an F3, okay.
Yep, so it's an F3. So we stuck with the F3, and for the ESC that we're running, and really this size, it's more than adequate to keep up. It's still extremely smooth. F3 and D-Shot 600 is a good combination. It's really tried and true. Really tried and true kind of a firmware combination and processing power. So stayed with that. Like I said, we did add, it's a Betaflight OSD capable, so it just has plugs, so the camera actually runs into the flight controller and out to the BTX. So you kind of get that overlay with the OSD.
And is this a 20 millimeter stack, or do you know the dimensions on the flight controller?
It's roughly a 20 by 20.
Okay.
So I think a little bit larger than that.
Okay. Okay. All right, great. When it comes to, so we've got, you said the camera goes in the flight controller, we've got the receiver then plugged into that. This is a Spectrum bind and fly product, meaning it's got a Spectrum receiver in there. However, if you're a customer that is not a Spectrum user, or you're a Crossfire guy, or you're a, whatever guy, could you, in fact, use those receivers on this model?
Of course. So
that's cool. That's really cool.
The Spectrum receiver that comes in there, you can just pull right out. It's not hard started to the board or anything. It is on a plug. So the pin out is really simple. It's just this power ground signal. As long as you connect your whatever receiver you want to use correctly to that and set it up in Betaflight, you can certainly use any other kind of receiver on this. So it is just a typical Betaflight flight controller that can handle that.
Yeah, okay. Good. Yeah, I'm just reading through the comments here, trying to hit on everything. I hope I'm doing a good job for you guys that are asking questions. As far as ENS is, I guess this takes over the Torrent 110. I mean, in theory, this is generation 2, right? So we've moved on to a new platform, a better platform, a more upgraded platform, something that's faster, just overall better performing. The Torrent 110 is going to still be in the market for a foreseeable future. You're still going to be able to get parts for it. We're still going to support it, so no worries there if you invest into that platform. It's still a great model. This is just the next step.
Yeah,
and for us, we're always innovating as a company, as Horizon Hobby. Every day, innovation is kind of key when it comes to what we do here. So we've got to keep moving forward.
So it's and that's something that's important to note too. With the Torrent still being in the market, there's some parts on this, and there's actually quite a few parts on this that are new, but it's backwards compatible. So you can certainly buy these motors and put them on your Torrent. You can take these propellers, and actually the propellers from from this model will actually fit on your Torrent. You can't run them with the propeller guards because they're a larger prop. But the other way around too, if you buy a Scimitar 110 and you have a bunch of Torrent props laying around, the little 2-inch props, you can throw those on here, and it's going to fly pretty well. You're kind of missing a little bit of that larger control authority that you get with the bigger prop. But there's a lot of components that are interchangeable. The camera, the video transmitter, you can add to your add to your current Torrent.
Yeah.
So that's another thing actually we haven't quite talked about is a video transmitter. So that's another big new thing on this is it's a variable power video transmitter. So it has a pit mode, it has a 25 milliwatt mode, and 150 milliwatt mode.
Awesome.
As many of you may remember, the Torrent was just 150 milliwatt mode. So the 25 milliwatt is what's race standard today with most GPs. So if you want to take this out and race with friends or race at an event like that, you have to have that 25 milliwatt.
Sure.
You can change that through your Spectrum flight controller, your Spectrum transmitter. I apologize. So it's a forward programming video transmitter that has you can go into the VTX menu and push your channel, your frequency, and as well as your power output. So you just set that in your transmitter, hit send, and it'll change it without you having to touch anything on the quad, which is really nice.
That's huge. Did you mention the way the antenna mounts to the VTX?
Yep, that's another big thing.
I think that's a big feature that we haven't talked about.
Yep, so actually, let's see if I can pop this one out here. It's in here pretty good. So if on the top of this here, you'll see there's kind of a little cutout here for the antenna and the video transmitter. And the connector that we went to is the MMCX connector. So that connector is actually becoming really standard in VTXs nowadays because it's small, it's lightweight, it's much smaller than your typical SMA or RPSMA connector. I'm stumbling over my words here, but it's really robust. It's a strong connector, and you can replace it. So as many of you may remember, on the Torrent 110, you had a dipole antenna that was direct solder to the board. Sure. So we're shipping this with a circular polarized antenna, which makes a huge difference, and it's replaceable as well. So you can switch it to left hand, right hand really easily.
So a couple of people are asking, and I think there may be a little confusion just because of our recent releases on the Inductrix line. This is not an HD camera system. So this is so you guys you've seen the Inductrix HD, which has that 1080p downlink, which is that, amplified Wi-Fi. This is not that. This is standard analog FPV. The camera on board is the same that was on the Torrent, about roughly?
Yeah.
So the same camera that was included on the Torrent. And so if it's an analog setup, guys, so it'll come back to your goggles. It's not HD. As far as HD camera mounting options, on a quad this size, it's really difficult. You're not going to get a GoPro Session on there. You could maybe fit like a run cam, but it's going to be clunky. There's just not a great alternative to run HD footage on a quad this size. The idea is get out there, have fun, don't worry about breaking it, go do silly things. It's under 250 grams, right?
Yep, so that's a big thing too.
That's a big thing with all the regulations and whatnot coming down, and we're going to be doing some videos in the future to talk through some of that stuff with you guys. But obviously FPV is completely fine in the eyes of the FAA as long as you have a spotter with you to maintain visual line of sight, and you're not doing anything malicious, obviously, with it. But if you're flying for fun in your backyard, generally speaking, you're going to be okay. And it's under 250 grams, so it really doesn't really fall into that realm. You don't have to put your registration number on there. You don't have to think about all those other rules that fall into the rest of the model aviation rules. So totally fine there. Let's see what else we got here. Go ahead if you got anything else you want to talk about.
The other thing I wanted to talk about is durability. So one of the key improvements that we made on this is we went to a new frame. So the frame is similar in size and similar in stance, but we went with a stretch X style of frame. So the original Torrent was an X style. This is a stretched X, which means it's longer front to back than it is side to side. What that does is it allows for a little bit better performance when you're in fast forward flight because you're getting those rear propellers up and out of kind of the front prop wash when you're tilted really far forward. So the carbon that we use on this is really good, really robust, but it's rigid, but it's not heavy. Obviously, carbon's really light.
It's
roughly 2 millimeter,
2.5, 2 point something millimeter frame. So
when you're talking a quad that's 150 grams,
it doesn't have a lot of mass to actually break an arm. It doesn't have, and you're looking for weight, and from a rigidity factor, I'm squeezing the heck out of this thing. I mean, obviously you're going to get a little flex out of it, but you're talking, that thing is stout. You're not going to get flex in the air. It's designed to wobble a little bit when you crash into the ground. But,
Yep.
I think proper selection on the airframe there.
Yeah, so not brittle. The other piece of this is we went with a Scimitar, hence the name, a Scimitar body style. So it has a full injection molded, impact resistant plastic shell that covers literally everything but the motors on the top. So you do have the exposed antenna in the back. That's kind of necessary. And you have the LEDs outside of that. But besides that, your camera, your video transmitter, your flight controller, your ESC, your motor wires are all housed in this shell here, with some cutouts. There are some holes in there. One for weight, two for allowing that airflow into the electronics, because electronics, especially video transmitters and stuff, they will get warm
For sure.
as you use them. So having that cooling factor helps too. But especially with running the bigger propellers, and without having the prop guards, if you hit something and you bend a prop and that prop bends down, it kind of rakes across your arm there. Yeah, you have the chance of cutting or maybe damaging your motor wires that are running down that arm. So
Sure.
we have that pod extend all the way over the motor wire, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And I know a lot of people are 3D print stuff to prevent that from happening. Or,
Yeah, this thing's pretty well protected.
Yeah. So
When it comes to the actual body, so we talked a little bit about the lights, right? You guys saw it earlier. Let me see that battery. So these are serial LEDs, right?
Yep.
So you can program, now they're pre-programmed, and we'll just plug it in here. They're pre-programmed to go to this kind of purple, and I believe it alternates kind of in a circle.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little circle pattern when you arm it. And what we have set out of the box is it's kind of an arm state, so when you arm it, they'll start moving, and then as you add throttle, they'll start spinning
Faster
a little
and
bit quicker.
faster. Yeah, and again, you can change it. So you can have solid block. You can put your own color. You can do green, blue, red, whatever you want. You can change, the ring state. You just got to plug it into Beta Flight.
Yeah, and it's really simple.
Set it up. So we can do. I think we have some videos on that, but we can probably do videos on it if you guys don't know how to do it. But it's really not difficult. Also, one thing I noticed, I want to unplug this so the camera can see it. So you can change the video transmitter or stuff via the radio, but if you want to do it by hand, you've got this little kind of tiny little button. I'm trying to get the lighting just right. Little button there if you need to get to the video transmitter. So just push that, and actually it has a nice click to it.
Yep.
You guys can't hear that, but it feels good under the finger. But that's just a nice little feature there. And then you've got your camera tilt option up there. So you've got quite a bit of, you obviously got full level, and then you got a couple degrees there. So nice there. And then you got antenna protectors.
Yeah, so the antennas route out of the pod, and then it comes with, you'll see this one actually doesn't have the antenna protectors on, so they kind of just route out there. You can keep them a little bit closer down in, shove them down in the pod, as long as you have the exposed part or the active element of the antenna out and exposed. You're going to have plenty of range.
Thanks, Pete, for commenting on the weight. Yeah, the all-up flying weight, guys, 137 grams with battery. That's super light, but obviously something this small. It's either, depending on battery, you're going to be 137, 180 grams, under 200 grams, definitely under 250 grams.
Yeah, the typical setup that we like to run with this is the 3S450, and the 2S800 is a little bit bigger battery, so it is that one is slightly heavier, but you're still well under 200 grams, and like you said, about 180, I'd venture to say.
Sure. All right, let's see. So it comes as bind and fly basic, so no battery in the box, if you guys aren't familiar with that terminology. That just means it's bind and fly. You can plug it up. You can plug in a 3S450 and bind it right to your Spectrum radio, but it's not going to come with a battery or a charger. And that just saves the cost. Again, 3S450s, we use them in all kind of models at Horizon, so it's a pretty common battery. We've got plenty of them in stock, typically speaking. We'll make sure to check that, obviously, but that's a battery that we're in a lot of models. Pretty inexpensive battery too. If you were to buy it through eFlight or through other manufacturers, it's a really common size. And then the price on this. So what is somebody going to be paying for this at the hobby shop or online?
So bind and fly basic is $199.99.
Okay.
So that comes with everything you see really on the table here. You just, like you said, you got to add your battery, Spectrum transmitter, and you can really run anything 6-channel and above. So even like a DX6E, which is more of our entry-level radio, you can certainly run on this all the way up to, well, if you wanted to run a 20-channel, you could, but it's a little unnecessary. You can then you just add a 5.8 gigahertz analog set of goggles, a monitor, and then you're off flying.
And Gabby's asking if it will take 4S. My guess is
no,
maybe not.
ESC is not designed on this one for 4S. Yeah. So 4S batteries that are sized well for this are a little bit more difficult to find. We have plentiful, 3S 450s. Now what we did is it's not slower really, so we geared it with the propeller and the motor combo to be really as fast as it can be on 3S. So Gabby, if you want to try one out, we'll get one out to you, and I'm sure you'll be impressed.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get you one, Gabby. As far as the battery connectors, so some people are saying, why do we go with a JST instead of something like a XT30 or like a Dean's Micro or something with a little bit more, I guess, oomph to it? My answer is we've got a lot of batteries that support JST. Yes, there are bigger connectors, but it adds weight. Yes, there are bigger connectors, but you'll get a little bit more performance. But by all means, guys, I think most of you can solder. If you want to change out the connector, go for it. But JST is just solid for us. It allows us to play within our battery ecosystem for our customers, for any one of our hobby shops out there. They're going to stock these batteries. We wanted to provide a model that they don't have to go, well, you guys sell this battery. Why doesn't this model work for that? So that's how we make certain decisions when it comes to products in the product portfolio. We've got a battery in the portfolio. We know that customers have it or own it. We know that retailers stock it, so we want to make sure our models are compatible. So a lot of times those are the factors and decisions, and not always, man, if we could have the best connector on this, we don't think that route too often. I mean, obviously if you're wanting to modify, and we know people modify hobby products, that's what we all do, go for it. By all means, go for it.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like you said, if you're comfortable enough soldering and you're kind of an experienced hobbyist, it's 2 solder pads. That's it.
Yeah.
Change the connector at your will. We're not gonna tell you no. So if you have a ecosystem of batteries, or if you have a pile of batteries that are XT30s or whatever, certainly switch the connector out. You're not gonna hurt our feelings.
All right. Well, I think we've covered most of the questions. There's a couple of repeats in there. But I think we got all the big things. Someone wants to know where they can get your Blade shirt.
It's Joe. They're online, so you can get them on HorizonHobby.com. You can check your local retailer and request them. So they're available just about everywhere. So
yeah, and I think you're wearing one of the prototype or early shirts. That one,
this
they
one's
actually
worn
have a little bit better, nicer white logo. As far as this shirt, guys, we still haven't got this one in stock. This is what we gave out at Joe Nall. I know every time I do a live with this shirt on, people are like, can I get that shirt? We really need to figure that out. So we'll work on that.
Everybody asks about the Spectrum Cup too. So
yeah, Spectrum Cup.
We'll figure that one out as well. Right now we don't have those available.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it. Derek, do you have anything else that we want to cover on this? I think we hit everything.
Yeah, I think we pretty much hit it all, kind of front to back. But if you have any other questions, please reach out to the Blade Facebook page or the Horizon Hobby Facebook page on these lives. Drop your questions in there, and I'll be going through them today and answering everything that we didn't address here.
Or if you have feedback on what we could do better, we'd love to hear that too. If you want to see something different, or if you want to, whatever it is, let us know. We appreciate all the feedback. Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend, and get out there and fly. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.